All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to go over a few things that I've learned on working on these old trucks with fuel tanks. It's a constant problem with these old steel tanks that rust and grime and crap get in them and clog them and things. So I've already pulled these tanks. It's a bit of a chore on these old Internationals, but I'd like to show you a few things that I've learned. So this tank obviously had a problem with the output, where the fuel pump pulls the fuel out. There was no fluid coming out of it, and I made up this air dill and threaded it in there, hooked up 120 psi. Nothing, couldn't get any flow through it at all. So I decided, well, instead of messing around with it for now, I'll just clean the tank and then I'll deal with that later. So how I clean the tanks is over here. So you probably can see these little bubbles and stuff. I'm doing some electrolysis with this is about a 15-gallon tank, so I added about, I don't know, about a cup worth of this Arm & Hammer super wash soda in this tank. Filled it up with water, mixed it up real good, and I made this rod here. So what's going on here is the negative is hooked up to my tank, positive is hooked up to here, and this thing is isolated. So the only thing it's making contact with is the fluid in the tank. I'm not grounding out to the sides or anything. This can be dangerous. Like if you're going to pull these leads off, you always want to unplug your battery charger. You need one of these old good chargers that doesn't require battery voltage for it to turn on. You just plug it in and it's going to send juice down here. But they got it on 2 amp. Basically, it's all the rust that's inside the tank is going to attract to this rod that I have in here, and it's just a piece of 1/4-inch round stock, and I bent it in an L form so it goes in here, because this is a big tank to be trying to pull rust out of, you know, all these different places. And obviously I got the end sealed up. I got as much fluid as I can in there, fairly level. But anyway, so after all that's done, I've had this one going for, I don't know, a couple hours now, and it seems like it's still doing stuff. I'll clean it out and check it. But after that's done, you end up with a fairly clean tank. I'll show you what this one looks like from the inside now that I've cleaned it. So you can see in there, it's pretty clean. Like there's no more rust in there. There's a little bit of grime and stuff, but I need to rinse it out a little bit better. But for the most part, it's rust free now. By doing that electrolysis, you suck all the rust out from the tank and attract it to that disposable rod. That rod will be ruined by the time I'm done. I've already ruined another rod doing this tank. But yeah, so anyway, after cleaning the tank, I still couldn't get any air through this thing, nor fluid coming out of it. I couldn't get anything out of it. So what I did is, I learned a trick years ago. You take an old, whatever size cable fits in the main tube there. This one happens to be a cable for a garage door. This was once straight. What I did is I hooked it up to my drill and just fed it in here and then just worked it down. And as these things fray out, it'll keep cleaning and cleaning. And that tube goes all the way down, oh, I don't know, 3/4 of the way, halfway down the tank where it picks up fuel. But yeah, it took, I mean, it's a long drawn out process. And then you got to pull this cable out every so often and clean the end. And what I do is I use an old air fitting. I always when I cut the ends of my cable. This one's kind of a crappy one, but I always put electrical tape on there and cut it with a cutoff wheel. And then I slid this on upside down to hook up air, but it fits down in there, so it makes a nice thing so you can pull those frayed edges through your cable, and I'll show you. Here, I'll grab my other cable and show you. So, see, our end here is bare, and I want this one to fray out because I'm going to feed it down in the tank. But on the other side, I wrap it in electrical tape before I cut it with my cutoff wheel. And if you just slide this on like this, you can pull those frayed ends into the end of here, and it'll contract them just enough for you to be able to hold them together. Stick it down in here, and then you can feed it right in there, lickety split. But after you spin this with your drill, what feels like forever, I got some good penetrating oil down there, what little I could fit. But yeah, I ended up just slowly feeding this on, spinning this, and sometimes the mess, it tries to kink up, and you might need several different lengths of cable. But yeah, we're all the way bottomed out now to the bottom of the, or damn near the bottom of the tank. As you pull that out, that tube is, you know, 3/4 of that tank goes down in there. But yeah, I just figured I'd show you guys what I've learned to be able to deal with these tanks. Now that I got this tank clear and this delivery tube clear, I'll drain out the tank of all water and everything that's in there, rinse it out real good, and then what I'll do is hook up air into the end or there and just keep moving air and try to dry it without creating rust. You don't want to leave it with moisture in there, so I'm going to dry it as much as I can, and then get make a tank sealant, and I'm going to coat the inside of this tank to prevent it from rusting again. Because, well, on these old trucks, since you don't drive them every day usually, you gain a lot of rust on the top end of the tank, especially with the new fuels we have nowadays. The top end of this thing was pretty rusty, and so was the other tank. I just like to give you guys just a few tips and tricks of what I've learned on working on these old things. Nope, there's a chunk of stuff that just fell out of the inside of there. Alright guys, so it's been a couple hours now. I unplugged my battery charger. See there, it's unplugged and disconnected. And this is the rod that was inside of the tank that I made up. Obviously I have a chunk of rubber hose here to isolate it, and the little clamp to keep it from touching the bottom. But if you can see all of this crap, this is all what was in the tank, and it just the rust that was on the tank is now stuck to this rod. So yeah, and it's kind of gross, but you know, you always want to make sure you have this outside ventilated area, because there is that, you saw those bubbles earlier. It is a flammable gas, and well, you're dealing with a fuel tank, so you know, watch your P's and Q's, and you know, be safe as you can. So now all we need to do is rinse this out and dry it. Just wanted to show you guys how I dry the tank out now that I've washed it out real good and everything. Some guys will use like a hair dryer and stuff, but really you just need to put it in the sun and create some airflow in there, evaporate that water as quickly as possible. So what I did is I just got my leaf blower here and a chunk of flexible lay flat hose taped down the end and to the fill nozzle of the tank. I still have everything else sealed up besides this hole in the top. I'll show you what I do. I just have that there, and I fire up my, I got a automatic cruise control here set up. So yeah. Fire this guy up. And this is how it's working. So I got my cruise control on via zip tie. And we got, I don't know if you can hear that, we got quite a bit of flow of air coming out of here, so it's circulating through the tank. Should dry it out in no time. And once it's dry, I'll do some coating.